This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Today, Slovakia's PM survives an assassination attempt, the UK's Labour leader sets out the party's key policies, and riots in New Caledonia become deadly. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Thursday, the 16th of May, 2024. Our main story today is that Slovakia's Prime Minister, Robert Fico, is in critical condition following an assassination attempt yesterday afternoon in the tiny remote mining town of Handlova. Fico emerged from a cabinet session with his ministers and went to greet a small crowd of supporters. Amongst the crowd was the gunman, 71-year-old pensioner, poet, and former security guard Juraj Cintola. Cintola fired 5 shots at close range, taking Fico's security officials by surprise and shooting the Prime Minister in the stomach and the arm. Fico was quickly bundled into a car, driven away from the scene, and flown to a nearby hospital in Banska Bystrica, rather than the capital of Bratislava, due to the gravity of his wounds. He spent 5 hours in surgery conducted by the surgical and trauma teams, in which he was stabilized. He remains today in stable but serious condition. A video being widely circulated on Slovak media shows Cintola saying his reasons were political and that he doesn't agree with the government policy and its stance towards state media. For context, since winning last September's general election, Fico has been accused of trying to dismantle media freedom and has been lurching towards the governance style of Hungary's strongman Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The shooting came on the day Parliament began discussing the government's proposal to abolish Slovakia's public broadcaster RTVS. Thousands have protested against Fico's proposal, and a planned opposition-led demonstration was supposed to take place yesterday, but it was quickly called off as news of the shooting emerged. However, Cintola's motivations do still remain ambiguous. According to local media, he is far from a typical liberal and has links to the far right and the pro-Russian group Slovački branci. Under Fico, Slovakia has become more polarized than ever, and the shooting has brought to light the deepening political divisions in the country. Fico's allies quickly moved to blame the opposition and the liberal media for having blood on their hands, with Andrej Danko, the leader of the Slovak National Party that governs in coalition with Fico, vowing to start a political war. But Zuzana Čaputová, the outgoing president and an opponent Fico has branded as an American agent, has called for calm and a restraint from hate speech which has spread across Slovak society. But it's not just Slovak society which will feel the deep repercussions of these events. The whole of Europe, which is more divided than ever, has been left shaken. The shooting is the first incident of its kind in Europe since the pro-European Serbian Prime Minister Zoran Đinđić was shot dead in 2003 in Belgrade. The shooting is a reflection of the dangers political polarization has on both Slovak society and on the rest of the continent. There's more on the way, but be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Alfie Lloyd, then consider joining the TLDR membership program for just $1.99. In UK news, Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer today set out the party's key policies ahead of the general election, as the party comes under increasing scrutiny. Speaking in Essex, South East England this morning, Starmer criticised years of chaos under the Tory government and said that Labour would take a country-first, party-second approach. In his speech, Starmer described Labour's 6 first steps to change Britain, which builds on the 5 missions already outlined: to deliver economic stability, cut NHS waiting times, set up a state-owned energy company, tackle antisocial behaviour, and recruit more teachers. The latest addition to Labour's First Steps plan is the introduction of a new Border Security Command with hundreds of specialist investigators, which aims to crack down on smuggling gangs transporting migrants across the English Channel. Another major policy is the creation of a publicly owned clean energy company, Green British Energy, which will attempt to keep bills down. However, critics of Labour's policies, specifically economic stability and cutting NHS waiting times, say they echo Sunak's, which just shows how both parties are trying to win the election on centre ground. But Starmer insists Labour's plans represent a down payment on change, and that the party would return politics to service. Now over to the French overseas territory of New Caledonia. The small island in the South Pacific is facing a constitutional crisis due to the proposed reforms of President Emmanuel Macron, which would reduce the political influence of the indigenous Kanak population. For 25 years, the electoral roll has been frozen to grant the poorer Kanaks more influence amongst an expanding, wealthier French settler population. But now Macron has decided to unfreeze the roll to expand the roster by around 20,000, to include European migrants who've lived on the island for more than 10 years. As a result, riots have broken out among the young Kanak population. 54 police officers and gendarmes were injured in overnight riots. More than 120 people have been arrested, 300 injured, and at least 3 young Kanaks and 1 gendarme have been killed. Authorities put a curfew in place on Tuesday, closing the international airport, banning public gatherings, and shutting diplomatic consulates. A state of emergency was declared yesterday, and today Macron has banned TikTok to try and quell the unrest. Ethnic tensions are now at a dangerous high, with local anti-independence politicians claiming that a race war is being perpetuated against the European population, sparking outrage among the indigenous people. If you want to know more about this story, there's a full video coming out tomorrow on TLDR EU, so keep an eye out for that. An update from the US presidential race now, as Donald Trump and allies are accused of laying the groundwork to contest a potential election loss in November. In recent interviews, the former president has refused to commit to accepting the election results, despite polls showing that Trump is leading in key battleground states. According to an article from Reuters, Trump's recent tactics include backing a Republican-sponsored bill aimed at preventing foreigners from voting, calling mail-in ballots corrupt, and urging supporters to vote in such large numbers to render the election, quote, too big to rig. His strategy has been referred to as an intensified version of the one he used during the 2020 election, when his false voter fraud claims encouraged supporters to storm the US Capitol building on January 6, 2021. Trump has also raised concerns over possible violence after November's election. When questioned by Time magazine in April, Trump responded, "If we don't win, you know it depends." Trump spokesperson Stephen Chung rejected claims that Trump is preparing to contest the election, saying Democrats are the real existential threat to democracy. Our final story today is about a 107-year-old man from Texas who has claimed the world record for the world's oldest skydiver. Alfred Al Blaschka, who first broke the Guinness World Record at 103 in 2020, lost it to 104-year-old Dorothy Hoffner in October 2023. A month later, Blaschka, then 106, got back in a plane and fell 9,000 feet to reclaim his title. Blaschka said his achievement shows that everyone is more than capable than they think, offering some wise words to others. He said, "If you think you can't, you're just underestimating yourself. You just need to make the decision to try."
Ultimately, underpinning this topic is a lot of data, whether that's economics, trade patterns, polling, or demographics. A lot of the time in politics, you just have to understand the data. So if you want to get a better grasp on these things, I'd recommend Brilliant. They've just introduced a whole bunch of new data courses, which are perfect for learners of any level, taking you through everything from Bayes' theorem to multiple linear regression. It even uses real datasets from the likes of Starbucks, X, and Spotify to bring things to life. I'm not even a super mathematical person, and I still found it easy and enjoyable to work through. That's because of how Brilliant is designed, built around learning by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data analysis, programming, and AI. The thing is that, like I said, you can learn all of these things quickly and easily, because Brilliant's courses are split into easy-to-digest chunks. Brilliant helps you build real knowledge in minutes a day, with fun lessons you can do whenever you have time, replacing mindless scrolling on the train or waiting for coffee with something actually stimulating and rewarding. So get learning across all kinds of STEM subjects for free for a full 30 days by clicking the link in the description. That way you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription, and they'll know that you came from us, which really helps us out.